We're going to hear from Mr. David Caton now.
I'll take my 4 minutes at the end and say the only thing that could change my mind is if South Korea fired a neutron bomb over the United States.
Thank you.
That would be the only way I would change my mind. I need to respond to one thing before I get into my spiel about Mark Sharp saying he was slow coming to the transit issue, because if he remembers very well, we spent 3 hours at First Watch, your first time that you ran for office, and you had called and asked me to get the support of a very, very influential fundraiser. And we had a 3-hour discussion about the transit tax. And you were very, very much committed to that at your first run for county commission. And I have two very, very, very prominent conservative mega millionaires who backed me up on that. So it wasn't slow coming. He was born with transit in his blood. Now, my county experience tells me that I got to start with the facts of the county. And I do have an email here from Beth Alden, who is from the Metropolitan Planning Organization, where she states specifically the cost will be a total of $4 billion for a 56-mile loop, U-shaped loop from the airport through downtown to USF, and it will cost $75 million a year to operate. And they expect 24,000 riders, Mark, not the first time it starts, but by 2035. Okay, so did everybody out there get a copy of my Ferrari flyer? Did everybody get a copy of that? That really says it all. That has all the information on there that I took from Beth Alden's email. Now, it would be cheaper to buy 2 Ferraris at $200,000 a piece, and you'll still have money left over. $200,000 a piece. You know, they won't be able to afford a gas mark and the insurance, but they certainly sell it and do something else with that. But I wanted to go through the numbers, because the total cost of $6.25 billion is calculated by $4 billion in construction costs and $75 million per year for 30 years. Now, the 24,000 daily riders that Beth Alden projects by the year 2035 is actually 12,000 people, because when you have to learn transportation ease, when you're dealing with bureaucrats, there are some, and the numbers of bus ridership, you'll have a guy that gets on 4 buses and he'd be counted as 4 riders. He'll go from one route to another route to another route. Well, the guy that gets on light rail, where is he going to go when he's ready to come back? How is he going to come back? He's going to ride the light rail back. So the actual 24,000 riders is actually 12,000 people. Now, one of the things that really concerns me is we have the single only comparable in the state being excluded from the probability of success, and that's Tri-Rail down in Miami-Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach County. Now, when they started 22 years ago, they projected in the first year that they would have 15,000 riders. 20 years later, they finally achieved 15,000 riders. Now, 15,000 riders sounds like a lot, but it's 7,500 people. And it sounds like a lot, but divide that by the 5.4 million people that live in those 3 counties, and it is 0.29%. Barely 1/4% of the population rides Tri-Rail. Now, if you apply the 0.29% times the 1.19 million people in the Hillsborough County, you'll have 3,497 people, 3,500 people. How many Ferraris does that make? 7. if you come down to real numbers, you're no longer at 2, you're at 7 Ferraris for 3,500 people. Now, there's a group called the Tampa Bay Regional Commuter Rail Feasibility Study. A lot of people call that the Cutter Report. It's put out in 1993. And for those of you who are saying, well, that's 17 years old, it doesn't apply now. The population of Tampa has grown. It has, but only by maybe 10% in the area where they're looking at putting this. Most of the growth has occurred in Hillsborough County. It's been in New Tampa and out East County. But I want to read to you what they said. Tampa Bay weakness relative to commuter rail, and meantime ridership potential for the 5 existing rail lines is found in the study to be limited in the first years. Early ridership is estimated at between several hundred to possibly 1,200 per line. This relatively low ridership is reflective of a number of Tampa Bay regional conditions such as the following. Very few people work in the individual city centers. For example, only 20 to 28,000 people work in downtown Tampa. So we're looking at, if you take the Cutter Report, even adjusted, let's say we had a 20% population increase. Let's increase their numbers 20%, so now we're at 4,200. We're still 35 to 4,200. And we're looking at 7 Ferraris. Now stay with me because I'm reconciling from Beth Alden's 2 Ferraris, and I'm going to get up to 12. This I found in your public records. In your report, one of the many that said cost overruns average 50% for construction. Cost overruns average 50% for construction. Right here in your own documents, from the public purpose. Operating costs for rail transit on average 80%. 80%. 12 Ferraris. We've gone from 2 to 12 Ferraris. I couldn't put that on the brochure. It's confusing to people, but that's how excessive this cost is, and this isn't the only one. You notice they talk about certain rails, but they don't talk about others. They don't talk about Tri-Rail. They don't talk about Minneapolis-Hiawatha Rail, with a cost overrun that went from $540 million to $714 million. There were 5 of these studies, by the way, Mark, in your reports. Now, the Metropolitan Planning Organization needs to be able to go to the Federal Transit Administration and take more of that porculus money that probably Chris is going to be standing out there begging for from our children's future, and he is going to be applying for federal money. Okay? In order to get it, they have to show densities, real densities. That's why they overstated population growth between US 92, south of the US 92, which is Hillsborough Avenue, north of 60, which is Kennedy and Adamo. They said they're going to have 91,000 new people live there by 2025. You know, less than 16,000 people have moved into that area just over the last 20 years or 17 years. Now, I called the property appraiser's office and I said, can you send me an Excel spreadsheet? I want every vacant lot in that area. I want every...
We're going hopping, hop, we're going hopping today, where things are popping, pop, a Philadelphia way. We're gonna drop it, drop, on all the music they play on the bandstand.